Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
He's a narcissist and a sociopath, and I am an empath.
What fresh hell.
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
After semester restraint collapse.
With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
They're more likely to commit crimes.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas
so you don't have to.
Nobody's ever going to wonder if anybody's mad at them. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Take from What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Amy.
And this is Margaret. And today we're following up on a previous episode, our yelling episode, in which I asked Amy whether we should spend any time on the yelly side of the fence. I noticed and was talking about how my daughter especially gets very nervous when people yell at her. She's very reactive to yelling.
Okay.
And is there a way to work against, and is it gendered, the kind of "are you mad at me" response that somehow and sometimes defines our relationship to other people?
Yes, defines and trying not to get yelled at or having people mad at you or displeased with you or whatever becomes the way that you move through the world.
Yes. And I think it's a sticky question. I think the gendering of the question, which I introduced to the conversation, is probably not right in a lot of ways. And we're going to talk about that all after we talk about our mailbag.
Oh, yes. Wait a minute. Time for mailbag. Wait. Check the mailbag.
Our mailbag today is a review of the podcast, Amy.
Ooh, you mean if you review this podcast, you might get to hear it read on the podcast?
You said
All
it.
right.
I was thinking it, but you said it. This is a review from Memphis 627. I have been listening to this podcast, I would have to guess, 8 years. For me, the messaging from this podcast is, quote, "It's all going to be all right," end quote. Don't take it too seriously. This was helpful for me as I was going through Everything is Serious in my start as a parent. They can make me laugh and feel good about whatever choices I have made as a parent.
Thank you, Memphis 627. That's kind of what we're going for.
Yeah, that is exactly what we're going for. And we'd love you to rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening. Throw us those 5 stars and then, a little note, and you might hear your review read on an upcoming podcast. Amy, let's talk about the concept of personalization. Are you familiar with this term?
I think I am. If I was like a student who didn't study and had to get up in front of the class and explain it, I think I could. But why don't you tell me what personalization is so I know for sure?
This is from Psychology Today. Personalization, it's a cognitive distortion. When you engage in this type of thinking, you erroneously see yourself as the cause of things you're not responsible for. For this reason, personalization is a major source of anxiety and unhappiness. It also leads to self-blame, and that is never good for you.
So can you give me an example of something you would personalize? A cause of a thing you're not responsible for?
Yes. Mom is yelling and upset because I am a disappointment. Mom is stressed out because I am a bad kid. That's like a huge, big time example.
Oh, okay. That your mom is yelling and having a bad day, and you think that you are responsible for having put her in a bad mood. This gets really tricky for me because, as you know, speaking of like 8 years now, I've been talking about this. When somebody says, just don't take it personally. When the person is saying, I hate you, you make everything terrible, Mom, right? Or why are you always like this? It's intended personally. I understand you can do this sort of like, oh, that's what Eckhart Tolle would call their pain body. Oh, their pain body is out. Oh, I'm looking at their distress. There it is. But when it's very much intended by the yeller to be at you, I've always found it a little hard to be like, just don't take it personally. It's like, but Mom's yelling at me.
But that's not personalization.
Okay.
If you walk into a room, you walk into a dinner party and you're like, I can tell everybody thinks that my outfit is not up to snuff at this party. That is personalization. Like you're drawing the story that does not exist onto yourself. The personalization of like, you stink as a mom and I'm yelling that in your face. That's not personalization. That's like someone is putting this very specifically on you.
And that's still, if you're the parent in that situation, you're like, okay, I know what's really happening. You have to try to take a step back and say like, okay, they have a test tomorrow. They had a fever yesterday, whatever. There's a reason that there's something that they're taking out on you and it's not you. I feel like it's still offered as the only solution.
Right.
Like when your kid says, I hate you and you're a bad mom. Well, don't take it. Don't let it bother you. Don't take it personally is the only option.
Yeah, I think there's a distinction between that, which is don't let it bother you. I mean, I've often said on the podcast, you should feel hurt because that person is trying to hurt your feelings. Like the mom who decides to cut you out of the mom group and stop inviting you places. That's not personalization. That person is targeting you and trying to hurt your feelings and bully you for whatever their reasons are.
Right.
Personalization is none of my friends have called me. I'm sure they're all going out without me because they hate me. And in fact, they're just really busy because it's the holidays. So there's two distinct categories there. One is that you're filling in the blanks of making things about you. That's personalization. People actively targeting you. And I mean, yes, maybe it's a circle. I mean, there's an old joke, like just because you're paranoid doesn't mean people aren't trying to get you. Like they may both be true, but I think the putting ourselves in the gap is the place that we're talking about today. And so it makes sense that the anxiety of seeing yourself as the center of every story, it ramps up anxiety. If I don't do it, no one else will. Everyone's going to be mad at me. People expect this of me, therefore I must. And I think, and you talk about this in Happy to Help, having that story, sometimes it's true, lots of times it's true, but that personalization element is, are there aspects where you can change that story for yourself?
Yeah. In the writing of Happy to Help and the talking about it, I've realized, because people always ask me, like, so how do you stop being a people pleaser? Because I think people pleaser, which I think is pretty nebulous, in which, despite it being in the subtitle of the book, is only tangentially what this book is about, right? I think people pleaser is what they call an annoying woman who says she has too much to do, right? Is like, well, stop being such a people pleaser. No, she's overwhelmed. She's saying she needs help. So I've been trying to figure out what makes a people pleaser versus not. And the best definition I've seen is if you're doing something solely to not disappoint other people or to not have other people be mad at you, even if that's totally in your mind, right? Other people's feelings are your only motivation for doing something. your feelings, you don't know what your feelings are about it, or you're resentful or whatever, or you have no feelings about it. But if I don't keep sending these long holiday letters every year, people will be mad at me or something. That's people pleasing.
Right. And we've also talked about the fact that we're kin keepers. We're doing a lot of this magic for real reasons, and it is valuable work. We've also talked about the fact that we live in a country with a very porous social safety net, so that when there is an elderly parent who needs care, you can't just be like, well, I'm going to set my own boundaries. Like, okay, but you're not going to let your parents starve to death in their apartment because you had to turn off their stove because you're afraid they're going to burn themselves. So these lines, I think, as we talk about it, and I do think there is a huge gender aspect here that is also very amorphous. As I was trying to research this topic and start getting into it, I found myself at some point, I was Googling how to raise strong, confident daughters. Is that part of getting rid of this "are you mad at me" people-pleasing nervousness that I'm trying to think about? And one of the things you realize is that the spectrum of gender and gender roles is so wide. So the response from a Focus on the Family website about how to raise a strong, confident daughter,
which is Christian and
which is Christian-based and very traditional, that is such a different response than you get from other areas, which are saying the way to be strong and confident is to completely throw off gender roles and seek this form of equality. It's a complicated question.
Or the way to solve this behavior is to cut off all contact with your parents if they, make you mad at the holidays, right? Just never talk to them again. That's the way to do that. I feel like that's what's offered these days, that you just have to explode everything rather than continue to have complicated or unpleasant relationships with the people closest to you.
So are women more susceptible to this? Are they more emotional than men?
Yes. If I think, "are you mad at me?" Is that something that's more likely for your girl child to say to you than a boy child? Yes. I think that's because from a very young age, we are taught to be the caretakers of other people's emotional states. I think girls are given that messaging and boys are much less often given that messaging.
NIH did a study on this very topic, and it's also very steeped in gender. Here's a quote from the study. "A man whose emotions fluctuate during a sporting event is described as passionate," the University of Michigan noted in a news release, citing study senior author Adrian Bells. But a woman whose emotions change due to events, even if provoked, can be considered irrational. So it's also how do emotional responses come out? I teach acting and public speaking, and my co-teacher always talks about, he's a male actor, that for men, playing anger is the first place that a lot of men go in an acting scene. That's their most accessible emotion, is this kind of anger response. And I do think that I see this in my boys, that they're more likely to act out in response to discipline or conflict in the house, whereas my daughter is more likely to turn things internally. And I think this is bared out. I mean, therapists talk about this, that teenage boys tend to act externally, break things, or they're more likely to commit crimes, let's say.
Set a fire, yeah.
Whereas girls tend to turn their emotions inward, like self-harm or control around food. And is that learned gender-based behavior?
Yes, that you have to control your emotional states. So I believe that girls from a very young age are taught to clock the emotions of people around them and make sure that everybody's having a good time and getting what they need. And that you also must monitor your own emotional state to not be too much trouble to anybody, right? To not be unpleasant, to be pleasing to the eye, to be lovely while you're serving the tea. I think that still trickles down. And so, yes, especially our girl children are constantly vigilant on their own emotional states, making sure that they're presenting like they should, and hypervigilant of the people around them, that they're, am I pleasing you? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Right. This ability to kind of fit yourself into the puzzle shape that you think is desired. And this is certainly something that has played out in my own life in terms of dating relationships, or just ending up in situations that I didn't want to be in, because I felt it was more important to be pleasing than to kind of stand up for myself. And that is something that I would like to break that cycle and break that legacy. And I have spoken it to my daughter that I feel like I often stay pleasing and then I go crazy. Basically, like someone asked me out on a date that I don't want to go out on. I'm talking about as a younger person. And I'm like, okay, I guess, because I want to be nice. And then they show up and I don't want to be there. And so I'm kind of crabby. And then if they're pushy, it just ends up with me in a restaurant screaming in someone's face, like, I don't like you. I don't even want to be here. Like, I would have been better off to hold a strong no the second it was asked. My sister talks about when she was dating, I can't remember where she met the guy or whatever, but anyway, he showed up on a motorcycle to pick her up for the date with a helmet and handed her the helmet. And the idea was she was going to jump on the back of the bike, put her arms around him, and
This is a first
they were
date?
going to go somewhere. First date. This is undisclosed. And God bless my sister. She handed the helmet back and was like, I'm not going to do that. That's not something I'm interested in doing. And he, said mean things to her and drove off. But I thought, I think I would have gotten on the bike. I think I would have just been like, I don't have whatever that gene is that would allow me to hand that helmet back and say, no, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, there are times in my life I would have done that too.
All right. We're going to be back and talk more about this sticky topic.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
There's something else about this University of Michigan study that you referenced in the first part that I wanted to underline, because they were kind of looking at this idea, are women more emotional than men? That there was actually a belief underpinning that. The people who said yes because ovarian hormone fluctuations make women unstable. So therefore, yes, they're much more emotional. And that when they actually looked at the emotional fluctuations of the people in the study, that difference didn't exist. But perceptionally it exists. And it's another reason that I have to act normal lest somebody makes some PMS joke in front of me, is yet another thing that I think is put on us. We work harder than men to control our emotions and are given back that we're so emotional and unpredictable that we can't possibly be in charge of anything.
And it's fascinating. I found a quote while I was looking at this from Richard Nixon saying publicly, I don't think women should be in government. They can't regulate their emotions. Like, there's really no place for them. You're talking about, that's in the 1970s, it's not kind of ancient history.
I mean, yeah. I listened to a few podcasts hosted by young men with a lot of followers, and I think you might hear something remarkably similar. I don't think that much has changed.
This idea. Another article from Forbes, labeling women as emotional undermines their credibility, new study shows. Didn't need that study.
Really?
The link between the emotional label and the legitimacy of a woman's argument was established in recent studies published in the Psychology of Women Quarterly. Study participants read a dialogue between two people disagreeing. During the conflict, a woman or a man was told to calm down. When a woman was instructed to calm down, the participants rated her argument in the disagreement as significantly less legitimate. In a similar study where the woman was labeled emotional, the researchers obtained the same results. In both situations, the women's credibility takes a hit. So that the idea of presenting like, this woman is emotional automatically undermines everything she has to say.
I mean, who hasn't been in a meeting where I'm thinking of one meeting that makes me so mad every time I think about it, where I was making an excellent point and the person in charge, who was a man, screamed at me. It's so professionally inappropriate. And, I just kind of calmly, I managed to keep calm. Got up, left the meeting, am full of this person's negative emotion, and was actually called by somebody, half an hour later, can you just see clear to let this go? I'm like, what? I didn't do anything wrong, right? But it was sort of, when the man blew up, it was fine. Yeah, it was power.
I know for myself, and I definitely see this, I have a quick cry instinct when I get emotional. And I have a friend who's a very serious attorney. And when she was just out of law school, she would talk about the fact that when she got super emotional, she would get teary. Like, she would start crying, basically. Yeah. And that is seen as weakness. I mean, it just is, crying. And I think the idea of how do you somehow take out the sensitivity and emotionality around things, I think it's really tricky. And even in reading these studies, a lot of these studies are self-reporting. So you're at the end of the day writing down, here were my emotions. And I don't know how that plays out. The idea that I think if I were to get in a fender bender with a male and we're standing on the side of the street and he's screaming at me that I'm an idiot, my reaction is to start crying. There is a mismatch of the way we express ourselves emotionally, and we're both maybe just as justified in our arguments and our point of view, but I kind of lose the argument because I start bawling.
I have two thoughts about this. One is that women's tears are anger, or it's adrenaline, or it's whatever. We might be more likely to be teary, not because we're weaker, but because men are allowed to express two emotions, right? So that is there, and it's perceived as weakness when really it's anger. Sometimes it's rage, whatever. But those tears are then fed back to you as proof of your weakness instead of proof of your strength and your right to be angry in that moment. But the overall thing I wanted to ask is, so women aren't allowed to express emotions. We're told you can't be this and you can't be that. And if you're emotional, you're weak. How does that connect to what we were saying at the beginning with being worried other people are mad at you all the time and reading into other people's emotional states is something you have to manage? When we're already tasked with so much work of managing our own emotional states, how does that tie into also making us make sure nobody else is angry?
Well, Amy, let me give you two examples of the empath? I feel empath is one of those words that is very in vogue. It's about 5 years ago. Everybody was like, I'm an empath. And my ex is a, what's the word? My ex is a sociopath and I am an empath.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right?
Right. A narcissist. Right.
Yeah. He's a narcissist and a sociopath and I am an empath.
Right. I just feel so wonderfully that I'm not normal like you.
Right. And I remember at some point I was talking to my daughter and she said, she was all upset. And she said, well, sometimes I just feel sad for no reason. I was like, yes, welcome to what we call life. This happens to all of us, feeling emotions. And this idea of the deeply feeling person, I think that is a lot of women, that depth of feeling.
But that's emotional health, not emotional
damage.
Insufficiency. Yeah. But I think too often it's sold as that. All right. But tell me about the empaths.
Cognitive empathy is the ability to correctly identify another person's emotions and state of mind based on logic. For example, a teacher who identifies that a student who is avoiding an assignment is actually scared of it is using cognitive empathy to interpret their actions.
Okay, so like when your kid is super cranky and it's because they skipped a nap today, you're using cognitive empathy to figure out that's why they're losing their stuff, and so you can be calmer in response. Okay, I understand that.
Then there is affective empathy, the tendency to identify and take on the emotions of others. For example, a person might become anxious when their partner is anxious or feeling angry when around a group of angry people.
Oh, this is me. I am like, if I go to a funeral home, it could be somebody I barely know, and I will be crying more than anybody there. If there's a weird vibe in a room, I pick up on it immediately. And I've had to do a lot of work in my life to be like, yes, you can feel that they're in a bad mood, but that's not your bad mood. And you definitely don't have to do anything to fix their bad mood. You can let that exist outside you. That's been really hard for me to figure out. And maybe it's because I'm an affective, empathetic person.
And I think this is a useful construct for the conversation that we're having. The cognitive empathy. Are you mad at me? I'm constantly trying to perceive what is actually going on with everybody. And maybe a little bit of personalization where I'm putting myself in whatever situation is going on. I'm finding right now with one of my teens that every day I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And this child is like, I'm just relaxing. This is just my face now. And I think this child went from being, Mr. Jolly to slightly more disgruntled teen, and that it's important for me to stop filling in a definition there. You know?
Monitoring, emotional states, right?
Are you mad at me? Are you mad at the world? What's going on? I have to
everything okay at school? Right.
Right. I got to come in at 100 cognitive empathy and figure out all the missing pieces. While he's like, could you just let me play on my phone and relax and be tired?
Yeah. And that's such a big thing too. When kids become adolescents, I find they're working so hard to keep that mask going at school and be cool. And when they come home, this is true when kids go away to school too. I think they come home, they're so on all the time. They just want to drop it. After school restraint collapse, I think we're referring to. Yeah. After semester restraint collapse.
And you'll see it in a first grader where they come home and they start crying because the iPad is not at 100% or whatever ridiculous thing they're crying over. And then you see it in teenagers. In my house, it manifests much more as fine and a grump down on my, phone and just being quiet kind of. And I do think it's worth interrogating. I'm not saying if you have a grumpy teen, it's totally fine and just ignore them. We should be in there and saying, is everything going okay? But understanding that there is a line at which they are just having restraint collapse and they're tired, and that it is not my job to come in with absolute double-barreled cognitive empathy to say, I am going to figure out the missing piece here.
Although I would say for me, cognitive empathy has been the way out of affective empathy. That it's why are they in a bad mood? And you're feeling it. Am I in a bad mood? Am I out of sorts? No, they're out of sorts. And to get curious about why, right? What's really going on here? Because once you know why, then that helps you be no. There's definitely something going on between these family members that I'm in the same room with and I can feel it, but it's not. In order to pull yourself out of it, that you can look for those reasons. Although maybe somebody would say that was dysfunctional too, that you just don't feel that way. Just be able to immediately be like, oh, they're in a bad mood. How interesting that person's in a bad mood, instead of they're in a bad mood. Did I do anything? Did I, like, having another reason that it might be besides you is what pulls me out of that.
But I think you're right that it is about putting your thin piece of paper between emotion and reality. And teaching, I don't think that you can teach me not to be empathetic in all these different ways, because it is natural to me to, I mean, it's part of the reason why I'll turn off the news at certain points and whatever. Like, I cannot take on the worry about 8 million different things. My mother always used to say, we were born in a very certain set of years. And she always says, for me, the Vietnam War did not happen. Like, I just could not engage with the Vietnam War and 3 small children. It was too disturbing and painful. And I think that it's being able to say, where does my empathy, which is, you know, a great skill, a superpower, whatever you want to call it, where does it become damaging to me? And where is it affecting my choices and my day-to-day happiness in ways that are not serving me?
I can think of an example. If you have for parenting reasons, right? If you have a really challenging relationship with one of your kids that's taking a lot of stuff out on you, and when you get into one of those seasons, it can last for a year more, right? Like these are valleys you can go through. If you do get too stuck in their emotional state is my fault, if they say I'm a bad parent, that must be true on some level. If you get stuck there, you're not able to effectively parent, let alone be the happy person that you deserve to be if you're taking all of that on. And so doing all of this becomes really important for parenting, for yourself. I mean, I don't want to be like, so you can be a better parent, you have to learn how to not absorb this stuff. No, to be a happier person, you need to learn to not absorb this stuff too. But for parenting, it really is, unfortunately, kind of one-sided. You know, you can't tell your 13-year-old they have to behave like a mature adult. You have to remember that they're the kid, you're the adult, and you have to kind of meet, this is 65-35 at this point. They're not going to be fully mature in how they express themselves, but you can be more mature in what you take on.
Yeah. And going back to this study, it found in this systematic review of empathy and anxiety links, a link between both affective and cognitive empathy and social anxiety, which makes a lot of sense. You know, that you're constantly reading the room and you're constantly taking on the emotions of other people, that there is a connection between that and anxiety. And I think as we start the conversation of, my child is very susceptible to yelling or feeling that people are mad at her or taking on and absorbing the emotions of other people, it's useful to figure out how to push back against that, because it does cause actual problems. And the number one is anxiety.
And yet, being a deeply feeling person, like, the fix can't be stop caring.
No, the fix cannot be stop caring. So we're going to talk about some fixes after this break.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that, taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
Hey, I like your new RAV4. Thanks, yours too.
What does RAV stand for anyway?
To me, it's the Remarkably Advanced Vehicle.
Really? To me, it's the runway approved vehicle for its amazing style.
What about Remarkably Adaptable Vehicle because of its versatile cargo space?
Or really admired vehicle?
Oh, or Really Awesome Vehicle.
It really is the recreational activity vehicle. The stylish 2026 Toyota RAV4 Limited. What's your RAV4?
And now, signs you might be a people pleaser.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast.
I think my spouse is annoyed at me, so I asked if he was annoyed at me, and he said no. But now I'm worried that he's annoyed at me for asking if he was annoyed at me, and I want to kind of clear it up, but I'm worried I might be annoying.
Sure, I can chair the school nutrition committee. I can fit that in between assistant directing the elementary school play, being the PTA treasurer, and heading up the middle school book fair. It's literally no problem at all. I'll sleep when I'm dead, right?
I am so sorry for bumping into you. You were staring at your phone and walking quickly in my direction, and I should have anticipated that you were going to smash into me and moved out of the way. My bad. That is totally on me.
Yes, honey, I can host dinner for 16 at my house on one day's notice. I wouldn't want anyone to go hungry. Yes, honey, I can host dinner for 16 at my house on one day's notice. I wouldn't want anyone to go hungry. Oh, yeah, I mean, we could order takeout, but then the invisible voice in my head would wake me up at 3 a.m. for the next 3 years and berate me for being a failure. So I'll just whip something up instead.
This blouse? It does look kind of weird, doesn't it? But the lady at the store said it looked amazing on me, even though in reality it makes me look like a Revolutionary War bride kindergartner, but I just didn't want to let her down because she really thought it looked great. So I'm just going to keep on wearing it forever.
Hey, I was just wondering if I could get some help with this giant project that I've been trying to do myself, even though it's really something that at least 6 people should be contributing to. I'm sorry, no pressure at all. In fact, forget I asked. Are you mad at me?
This has been Signs You Might Be a People Pleaser.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast.
So I think we've established that we want our kids and ourselves to be empathetic to people. We don't want them to tip over the line to being constantly anxious about other people's feelings and feeling like it is their job to constantly read the room and make sure that everybody is okay at their own expense.
Right. Like reading the room and having emotional intelligence will get you far in life, but it can also lead you to some insecure places.
Yeah. And I think that this is a 1,000 conversation problem where you're going to have to keep talking about every situation that they find themselves in. And peer pressure is a great example of this in terms of why are you saying yes to this? I can think of an example where friends turned against another friend and my kid was not ready to make that turn, but then feeling a lot of pressure from friends. And that these are conversations about how does this feel in your body? What feels like the right instinct to you? And it's really hard to stand against your friends. And so there's a reason why this feels so bad. And so you can choose these two things. You can stay with your bigger group of friends and then accept the bad feelings towards the outcast, or you can stay with the outcast and then you're going to have to accept the bad feelings of the big group of friends. And I think a lot of this conversation is about constants and variables. What can you change and what can't you change? And what feels bad about the pain is in the gap, as you say. Like what feels bad there and how do we work through those feelings?
I want to bring up something that's in particular something that I think girl children have to deal with, or girl adolescents, which is being nice to somebody who asks them out. Going out with saying you'll, go out on a date, whatever that means to your, 8th grader, with a kid that you don't really like, but it would be mean to say no. So you go out with them. And then maybe a month later, they're texting you all the time and you don't even really like them, but your friend really thought you should go out with them. And now you don't want to break up with them because that would be mean. And so, and this is it's certainly a place I found myself as a kid, and I think things have changed and not changed. And so this is something we really have to help our daughters with. And I found myself having to like dial back some of them like, well, what do you mean he's so nice? Like if somebody likes her, if somebody likes my kid, that person is owed, if not reciprocal feeling, a lot of niceness so as not to disappoint them, this nice person.
I think this is, for me, a big kind of generational change that I think I was raised, and I mean with very good intentions, that being polite and nice and kind to other people was paramount and very, very important. And I do want to add to that conversation for my kids that it's okay to put yourself first in situations, and it is okay to say no. And the moment I heard someone say this a long time ago, the moment you say no and someone else pushes back, they are now trying to manipulate you.
I think Oprah said that, right? I think you told me that Oprah said that.
It sounds like Oprah.
Let's give it to Oprah. Let's say Oprah said it.
Oprah.
Benjamin Franklin or Oprah.
Yes. But I think that it is important to say that, because gosh, I was in this situation so many times, and I do think it tended to be with men. Often, sometimes older men, like, oh, just do this, it'll be fine. And practicing the skill of saying no, I think can be very, very important. And then something we say all the time in my house is no stops everything. No is the end.
In terms of rough playing, like if somebody's not having fun.
If you're wrestling and someone says no, the minute you hear no, everything stops. And I have found myself voicing to my kids again and again, I heard no. And the minute I hear it, that is something I am willing to get off the couch and underscore. And it's not just about consent. It's just about the idea of people are allowed to say no to you is an important thing to teach our kids. And if the person playing is like, no, it's totally fine, I'm like, well, then you cannot say no. It's over now because you said no. So we can pick that up some other time. But the power of no is something that I'm really trying to underscore with my kids. And I think with myself, and I don't know, I do find it more with my daughter that I have to say more often, you can say no. And that is okay. And people may be mad at you, and that is okay. Now, do I still find myself saying like, oh, be nice to that kid, they're struggling, they're blah, blah, blah. I do, but I try to check myself on that instinct a little bit more often because I do think it's fundamentally not as nice a message as I think it is.
Are there other ways that we can sort of help our kids understand this thing about other people's emotional states being not theirs? I mean, create a house in which we don't take things out on our kids would be, I guess, a good way to do it.
Well, obviously modeling is always the number one. Unfortunately, we have to just accept that our kids are going to grow up a lot like we are. And so, yes, if you are a parent who is constantly running themselves, grinding down to the fine powder because you are throwing yourself in 1,000 machines to make other people happy, the first thing that you can do is say, I have to say no to that because it's not good for me.
And sort of verbalize that
and
in front of your kids.
Yeah. And that, I think verbalizing your choices can be really good. Sometimes I find myself, I teach at night and I often don't want to go because now it's dark and I'm leaving and it's pitch black and 4:30, and I will try to verbalize, or I just verbalize because I verbalize everything. But my mother used to say of me, you will never know the simple joy of an unexpressed thought. It is true. I'm a verbalizer. But, I really don't want to go, but I made this commitment and I have students who are expecting me to be there, so I have to go. And I don't want to, but I'm going to anyway. But there was a day where I was super overwhelmed. I wasn't feeling well. And I knew the person I taught with was going to be there. And so I said, I'm going to call out tonight. I'm going to let my other teacher take it because I feel for myself that I can't go. And I have had kids come to me and say, can I take a mental health day from school? I just don't feel like I can do it. And I try to respond, yes, this is a one-off. This can happen once a semester maybe, or whatever, so that you don't You can't have a kid who's taking a mental health day every single day, realistically, unless you're able to homeschool or make some bigger change. But I think respecting your kid's voice is super important to this process.
I'm going to come in with another idea that's kind of the opposite of that, which is setting firm boundaries with your kids and letting them hear you say no, and not, if I tantrum for long enough, mom will give me my phone back even though I'm out of screen time for the day, that kind of thing. When they blow their top, when we can say when our no is a no, and when we can remain calm and firm in that, and it doesn't matter if you're the worst mom ever, but none of that. We don't get angry in response. We stay calm in response, and we don't change our mind in response. That is also modeling a really good skill that we want our daughter to have, or our son, when somebody shows up in the driveway with a motorcycle helmet and says, "Here, get on," right? "I don't know you, get on back," right? We want them to be able to no, and feel comfortable with that, and feel comfortable with the other person having their reaction and it having nothing to do with them. It's occurring to me that's something that's super important to model for our kids.
Yeah, and we've talked before about the self-esteem box. Like, there's this idea that everybody's got a book about your kids and their self-esteem, and there's a secret map to the self-esteem box, and if they can just find it and open it, they'll have self-esteem. Self-esteem is such a series of you can do it, and your strength, Dorothy, it's inside of you all along. And I think that as my kids get older, I try more and more to say, we're leaving at 4:30. You know the steps to be ready to leave at 4:30, and we're leaving at 4:30. And then the car leaves at 4:30. And if you're not in it, you're going to miss the event. Take responsibility for yourself. Own your own actions. And one of the rules in our house is that the kids have screens after school, and then they have to turn the screens off at 4:00. That's the end of screens at our house. And I used to 5-minute warning and this and that. And now I always say to the kids, you have to be off screens by 4:00. And the other day I lost track of time. And I will say, with the darkness and stuff, I do feel like they get confused about what time it is. But at 4:15, I came and had to chase everyone off screens. And I said, listen, this is the last time this is happening. The next time I have to chase you off screens, you're off screens for a week. This is your responsibility. You have to take charge of yourself. And it's a small example, but I think the more that we say to our kids, you are responsible for yourself and your own emotions, the better off they are in the long term.
All right, well, we solved it. This is good. Nobody's ever going to wonder if anybody's mad at them ever again.
Solved it, friends. Go ahead and write that review and be like, these people solve every
problem I have.
Problem. Get on that review board.
They solve. Happy to Help is out in the world. It's actually here. It's a thing. I'm sure everybody has it already if you're listening to this, because I've hounded you enough. But if you haven't bought it yet, go get it. If you enjoyed this episode, go get it. It's so in line with everything we talked about today. You can get Happy to Help wherever books are sold. Go to your indie and ask for Happy to Help. Go to the link in this episode. And if you enjoyed it, just like our podcast, give some stars, give some reviews on Goodreads or Amazon or wherever you post your book reviews. It really helps.
And it is. It's a great companion to this episode, because I feel like Amy is very unapologetic about her stance on so many things, and like rejecting some of the ideas that this is all your fault.
Very much so.
And with that, friends, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, everybody.